Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. By the time you are watching this video, oral arguments may already be done, but we're going to link up down below how you can listen to them on replay to literally what is one of the most important Second Amendment cases that come along in a long time. It has not gotten the publicity like Bruin did. It's not even getting the publicity of Snope or the Ocean State case, which hasn't even been accepted by the United States Supreme Court. No, today we're going to talk about the case of Smith Wesson versus Mexico, because this case not only has the potential to significantly and forever alter your Second Amendment rights, but this case actually has the ability to forever alter the sovereignty of the United States as a whole. We'll connect the dots. Actually, we're going to use a very well-known United States Senator to help connect the dots today. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about a massive Second Amendment case before the Supreme Court today. Okay, America, here's what we're talking about. And for those of you who geek out on the channel regularly, you will know that we have talked about this case quite a bit, and that is Smith Wesson versus Mexico. It is a lawsuit brought by Mexico against Smith Wesson, blaming Smith Wesson for the violence problem that they have in Mexico caused by drug cartels. It is an attack to not only our sovereignty as a nation, but to a very well-delineated statute called the Protection of Lawful and Commerce Act. We'll link it all up down below. That's not what I want to talk to you about today. What I want you to understand, though, is just how important this case really is. And in order to focus on it, and I think the party that really summarized just how massively important this case not only is to the Second Amendment, but to American sovereignty, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to take a look at an amicus brief today that was filed by Senator Ted Cruz, as well as all of these legislators as well. So all of these legislators supposedly contributed in some way to the writing of this memorandum. And I'm only going to read just portions of it, but I want you to understand that if we were to allow the country of Mexico to sue an American firearm manufacturer and pierce through a statute which is clearly designed to prevent that from happening, and allow a foreign government to then sue one of our largest American gun manufacturers into insolvency, well, one can imagine the avalanche of lawsuits that would occur immediately thereafter, okay? And once you sue all of the gun makers into insolvency, do you even have a Second Amendment right anymore? Let me show you how the amicus party started out here. The foreign nation of Mexico has filed a lawsuit that attempts to use the federal courts to advance a theory of liability for lawful American businesses that would infringe upon a constitutional right and do so in direct conflict with a law Congress passed precisely to prevent such liability. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution ensures the right to keep and bear arms for law-abiding and peaceable American citizens, but it would be impossible to exercise that right if a citizen could not lawfully purchase a firearm because the firearm industry had become insolvent. Congress passed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act to prevent such an outcome by placing firearm manufacturers on equal footing with other American manufacturers. Under the Act, so long as the firearm is properly made and properly transferred into commercial channels, a manufacturer is generally not liable if a criminal later misuses that firearm in the commission of a crime. But beyond the obvious threats to the Second Amendment, amicus party correctly points out, Mexico's lawsuit is an affront to the sovereignty of the United States of America. It has no place in federal court and attempts to coerce American courts to subvert the policy determination of the political branches of the U.S. government. A nation's authority on its own soil is virtually absolute. And I believe that that sovereignty actually is absolute. But what Mexico is trying to do is try to basically implement gun policy through international lawsuit, okay? And as the amicus party also points out, Mexico's suit attempts to impose the laws of that foreign nation upon the citizens and companies of this nation. This is ironic, given that Mexico's constitution also provides its citizens the right to possess firearms in their residence for self-defense, but that nominal right is a pale shadow of its American counterpart, subject to severe restrictions, coupled with the fact that there is only a single gun store in Mexico. That nation's laws and traditions of the right to own firearms bear little resemblance to that of our own. And this case should be particularly straightforward for the United States Supreme Court because we don't even have to get into all of the long-term devastating impacts that could occur, even though they should be obvious to anybody who understands this issue. Because as we already mentioned, there is a statute, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, which is actually designed to prevent this exact thing from occurring. For whatever reason, the First Circuit didn't get that memo, and that's why we're here in front of the United States Supreme Court. But as the amicus party points out, this court should reject Mexico's spurious argument that the PLCAA is categorically inapplicable, as well as its other arguments on the merits. Mexico's lawsuit thus disrespects the U.S. Constitution and U.S. law. While Mexico may not place such stock in the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms is fundamental to our scheme of ordered liberty. And then in finally pointing out that really the equation is much more simple than that, because there really is just a big, gigantic statutory scheme sitting right there designed to prevent this exact thing. Amicus party points out Congress passed PLCAA to prevent precisely this sort of lawsuit. Mexico cannot use our courts to evade our own positive law. This court should therefore reverse the First Circuit's erroneous decision approving that evasion. So, America, I want you to understand that a bad ruling here will allow the Mexican government to proceed with a lawsuit clearly designed to drive Smith Wesson out of business. And when that happens, all the other lawsuits are going to be filed against all the other gun manufacturers. So in many ways, the entire firearms industry hinges on what the Supreme Court is going to decide in the matter of Smith Wesson v. Mexico. And that is why it is one of the most important cases to come along in a very, very long time. Listen, we're going to go ahead and link up everything down below so you don't have to take our word for it. You can geek out on it for yourself. If you got any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. But if you don't, that's okay. That information's down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, cool. Click on that link right there and tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, there's a link in the description box that tells you how to do that. And then finally, and most importantly, America, let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.